for the second year at town meeting in March 9th, we'll have our warrant article for a library expansion. You will see a slide presentation. Patricia will narrate. So we will show you what you're doing to help build our community. Our warrant article is for the amount of $2,117,000 and change. But due to the extraordinary efforts of Jean Paleko, Jean, raise your hand. She chairs the Library Foundation, which has raised and will contribute $550,000 to offset the cost of this project.
And thanks to the generosity of local people who live here, people who are voters, people who are not voters, people who have heard about us from other places. I've done Facebook birthday fundraising, so some of my friends who live in Michigan and Virginia have contributed. So it's wonderful. Banks, organizations, it's just.
We need you over here, please.
No, I need you to ask.
What?
I need you guys to ask about consent.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, Leah. Does everyone consent to us recording this, because it is a public meeting and it really should be a matter of public record? If there's anyone who objects, please raise their hand. Okay, I think we have consent, implied consent, no hands raised. Okay, and Jean, I think she's covered it. If any of you couldn't hear, she, has done an extraordinary job, but she's also done,
So the generosity of various local businesses, some foundations have done matching gifts, and all of that adds up. And everything from $4 that someone handed me at the transfer station when I was camping out there to very generous pledges. It's a community effort and beyond this community. So people do recognize how important libraries are, and that's how we've been able to get to the amount of money that's been pledged and donated so far.
Thank you. So our warrant article is for the amount of $1,567,809. What that equates to for an owner of a $300,000 house is a large cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee a month, $24 for the year. And we think that's not a lot for a cornerstone of our community. Someone at our last community meeting described the library, excuse me, as the soul of our community. And, people come here to our library for help, in distress sometimes. Confidences prevent us from giving you true anecdotes, but we could. And I also am remiss in not welcoming Town Manager Dennis Pallett, Select Board Member Joy Knoll, who are attending today, and we very much appreciate their support. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Patricia Sherman, who will narrate this brief slide presentation, because we really want to cut to the chase for your questions and the opportunity to answer them. Thank you.
Good morning. I hope you didn't have to come in that door, because if you did, you'd be in 2 inches of mud.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now, can you hear me?
Good.
Okay, great. Okay, the first slide. Believe it or not, this is the expanded library. All of the addition is in the back and goes across the entire back of the library. Next. Here is the site plan. Here's the new fire station. Here's the town offices. Here's the existing library, and here is the addition. So you understand how all of these fit together. And I might say that Newbury is one of the extraordinary towns in New Hampshire that has a true town center. Everything you need from the town, businesses, library, fire department, police department, everything is all centered in the town. And that's the kind of thing that makes a fantastic community, by the way. Next. Okay, what is a 21st century library? We're not just books. We're a gathering place. We're a source of reliable information. There's been some very interesting articles recently how important the library is to give out information that is not biased. A place to educate oneself, a source of entertainment because of all our programs, a place to turn for personal help, as Lynn spoke, and it is indeed the soul of the community. Next, Jean. What do? We have 1,700 registered patrons in a town of 2,200. That's pretty good. And 88 came this year, and you'd be amazed at how many patrons we have who come from other towns outside of Newbury, because we're such a friendly library. Everything is free, no overdue bills, and you can talk in our library. The library is available to all the users of the CareSide system. I don't know how many people really know that. The libraries in the other towns do the same thing, but that's quite a community activity. We own almost 17,000 books, DVDs, audiobooks, craft kits, telescopes, games, museum passes, etc. This year we've had almost 13,000 checkouts, which is probably half of what we would normally have if it weren't for COVID. But to keep our collection up to date, we add 1,400 books in 21 and withdrew 1,000. So we're only adding 300 or 400 books a year, which is consistent with the contemporary library. We have 983 library loans from other libraries in the state. So if you want to come to the library and do some research, or you're just interested in the topic, if we don't have the book, we can get it any place in the U.S. We've loaned 474 books to other libraries. And we have access to hundreds of thousands of digital books, audiobooks, magazines, movies through Hoopla and New Hampshire Overdrive. And through these, I believe we have 5,400 books have been transferred through some of these. Okay, what else do? We answered 495 reference questions, in addition to about 230 tech help questions. What do I do with my computer? How do I get on this particular app? We have 70 home deliveries. We deliver to people who are either temporarily or permanently homebound. We have 200 programs this year for all ages, with 781 attendees and 234 virtual attendees. Again, this is all in a COVID year. And I think the next item is particularly important. Since you couldn't come to the library, our staff figured out how can the library come to you. So our children's librarian, Nancy Gove, made 552 take-home activity bags for everything from children through teens through adults. You have free access to computing, printing, faxing, and scanners. You have 24/7 access to high-speed wireless internet. And for New Hampshire, that's important. I mean for Newbury, because we don't have internet for everyone. And it's also a designated school bus stop for children whose parents need to pick them up, but they can't always coordinate exactly when that bus stops. So it's a really safe place for kids after school. Next, Jane. Okay, how do we do this? We have board of trustees that are elected. We have 5 elected members and 2 alternates. We have 2 full-time staff, 2 part-time staff, a student, 1 student intern, usually it's more than that, and 15 volunteers. Okay, where do we get the money to run this? The town obviously is the biggest contributor, and I don't know whether you all know, but it's in the New Hampshire Constitution that a town must support its library, and that was done probably in the 1700s. Liz, I don't know if that's right or
1800.
1800s,
Yeah.
thank you. Other than that, we have the Friends of the Library grants, which come from our own staff, researching grants. We have contributions, trust funds, and volunteers in kind is about $1,500. Next. Okay. And if you look, unfortunately, this is twisted around. We now have 2,800 square feet. When this building is completed, this is the existing building, and all of this is the addition. And you can, if you remember that blue blob behind the existing library, you can see how that correlates. I want to show you this slide particularly because in the existing library, there was a series of smaller rooms, which 20 years ago or 25 years ago when this was designed, that was sort of state of the art. That's not what we need anymore. What we need is open space that's flexible and we can change it as the need might be. Okay, now the homework that we did to get this started. We hired a consultant to work on a strategic plan, which we did in 2013. That strategic plan had this consultant talk to a series of focus groups we put together, a couple of public meetings, and a report. That report ended up with 50 measurable goals. And within the next few years, we had every one of those goals completed with the exception of the fact that we needed more space. So in 2016, we did a space analysis, what we have now and what do we need. Not what we want, but what we need. We also add community surveys to take a look at these analyses to see if we were on the right track. And then we have public input from 5 public meetings. Next, Jim. I don't expect you to read this, but this is the kind of analysis that we did. The space use, what the existing buildings could provide, including all of these, and this is the future needs. How much shelving, rooms, etc., and notes. Next. This just continues that same situation. And we ended up saying at that time that we needed 5,454 square feet. Well, we've exceeded that by a bit, but a lot of that is just sort of based on geometry and site constraints. Next, Jim. We also did this very specific, this is all of our holdings. This was in 2016, what we expected the growth to be by 2007. Actually, the growth has moderated a bit, but that doesn't account for what has increased exceptionally high is programming space and for all ages. Next year. Okay, here we're back at this site plan. Let me run through a few crucial things. Here's the front door. We now have an airlock. We no longer freeze out anybody who happens to be near the front door when it opens. This little room used to be the teen room. It wasn't very private. It didn't have a door, and you could look right in and you were on display. So now we have the teens down here in this homework center. It has a door. It has a window over here, so the staff can keep an eye on it. But it's really a place where teens can go, shut the door, and talk or play games or do homework or whatever they want. By the way, of the take-home bags that we did, we had quite a few teens who were taking home the take bags, and that's one of our big goals, is to increase the teen population. Okay, now when you come in, the computers were interspersed in various places. Most of them were here. Now all of the computer stuff is up front. So if you're coming to the library just for computers, you don't have to go through the whole library. It's right at the front door. This little tiny room here was the office for the librarian, the assistant librarian, and all of the necessary workspace. This space has been replaced by this entire room, which was the living room, reading room, and this room now has space for people to actually work. There's layout space, and there's a tremendous amount of books in transit in this room. The book carts we have are all over the library, but now all those book carts can be kept in here. This used to be the reading room, and we're keeping all these original windows, so this space has access, visual access to the entire library, as does the circulation desk, which used to be here and is now here, also has access, visual access to the library. And what this means is that with our relatively small staff, fewer people can control the activity of the library. Then this little space here, which by the way was the original library before this addition was done. So what we've done, we've added this whole space. So this becomes a children's activity room, which has a door, and if it's noisy, we can shut the door. And this is specifically children's library. One of the other pluses here is we now have a bathroom scaled for children. So when you come to this area, if you're a parent and you brought a toddler, you can go in here and help the toddler do whatever they have to do, rather than coming all the way back here to the bathrooms. By the way, we now have 2 full ADA bathrooms. We only had 1 before. Then the biggest thing that we wanted, and the thing that makes our library able to function, truly function better than ever, is this program room. It's 700 square feet. It can, depending on whether you're sitting in chairs or whether you're at tables, you can get up to 70 to 75 people in that room. What this means is we no longer have to have a staff member and the program go over there or over here, or the vets are the vets all obviously, but this, we now can have our staff in-house and our programs in-house. We also have storage in here, so if you have a craft program and you want to work on it for a few weeks, you can tuck it away and come back and it's still here. We also have a kitchenette. We can bake cookies for the kids. We have storage for chairs and tables, just like this room here. And we have a space for our volunteers who right now have no place to hang their coats or sit down and have a cup of coffee. So, next. Okay. The need for this square footage. We want to be more user-friendly. We want to be able to better serve the needs of the community. And this is the item that we've been looking for the most from the community. That's why we have public meetings. We want to know what you want us to do. And like having a bus stop for the kids, doing home deliveries, all of those things are well within our purview. And if you have a need, you come to us. And I've already talked about being more efficient in terms of how the staff is used. And in this case, this addition also redoes all of the systems in the existing library that are 20 years old and are going to be needed to be upgraded anyway, eventually. So the whole building is safer in today's economy. This is funny. Oh, it came up. Usually all you see is the L. LaValle Brenzinger of Manchester designed our space. And just for your information, when we were looking for an architect, I am an architect, by the way, so I understood the process. We sent out RFPs, we got 10 responses, which is really extraordinary. We interviewed 8 of those 10 people who came up from Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire. And we chose, unanimously, LaValle Brenzinger. So our trustees unanimously chose. So we went through a true research project, and it worked for us. Next, Jim.
Pat, what made you decide on them? What was it that they shared with you that won over everyone?
First of all, Ron Lamar was the one who was our architect from Manchester. And he seemed to understand, he'd done a lot of libraries, and he seemed to understand what we needed. He was very responsive. He basically developed a sense of trust. And when you hire an architect, it's like hiring a partner. I mean, you work very closely together, and you're putting a lot of trust in this person. And I think through the design process, we were very pleased with what we got and how it worked, and they were super cooperative. So, thanks, Joy.
I mean, I would also say, as a librarian, he came highly recommended from several other directors who had worked with him. In the interview process, he also talked a lot about when he designed libraries, how he liked to fit it into the fabric of the community so that the libraries that he designed really fit into what the community looked like and really reflected what a community wanted. And so I think
He also respected the architecture. And what we have here, when you come in that driveway, the town offices and the library face each other, which is a really very nice situation. And he preserved all of that facade. And the addition really doesn't detract at all, despite the fact that it's double the size. So here are some of the ideas that we can show you. Right now, this is how you come into the library. Please notice all the empty space on the shelves and the empty space back here. And there's no surface that isn't covered with some sort of informational material. Now, when you come in, there's an airlock, which starts about where this carpet is. And this room to the right is a meeting room, because that's one of the things that people want. We actually have 2 small meeting rooms now in the library. And if you work at home and you need a business meeting and you can't be sure the kids won't entertain the business customer, you can come to the library and have your meeting at the library. Next, Jean. Again, this is the teen room, which is
That's the meeting room.
the old teen room.
Oh, the old.
This is the old teen room, which was wide open with no privacy. This is now a meeting room, which you can see, we still have some books in there, but it is a table and chairs, and you can have a private meeting because there's a door. Next. Okay, here is the circulation desk. Again, you can see there's a little surface right here so you can talk to the librarian. This is now the computer center. Next. Okay, this is the reading room right now. But do look at, there's stuff everywhere because we're so desperate for space. This is now the processing room. There'll be plenty of books in here that are in transit, but there's workspace, meeting space, and this doesn't show the 3 or 4 or 5 book trolleys that we have stashed in various places. Next, June. This is our present meeting room, which again is full of books, which doesn't really work as a meeting room because there's too many needs for these books. So this is now the team room. Next, this is where most of our computers are right now. That's the window, the face that looks right on the town offices. This is now going to be the quiet reading room. It's the one that's furthest from the door and the quietest space. Next, June. This is just another view of the tech center. Yeah, no, this is fine. This is just the stacks in the back, and there are a whole lot of windows in the back. And in the future, we would like to have some sort of an outdoor space for evening movies and a terrace for sitting outside, but that's future, not now. Next, June. This is the big program room. And you can see it set up for almost a AIL course.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Next. This is the reading portion of the children's library, which is all in addition, and there is a door into this space, which is the children's activity center. Next. This is the children's activity room. This is the children's center right now. Again, there's a little bit of space here, but this is packed. And you put 15 children in here with a few parents and you can barely breathe. Next. Okay, now we come to the hard part. And just a little history. In 2017, we estimated the total cost of the library to be $1.7 million, but we didn't do a warrant at that point. In 2021, we did do a warrant. Look at the increase in costs. That's primarily construction. The warrant then was 1322557. Once again, 1 year later, it's gone up another $70,000. But we increased our fundraising from $500,000 to $550,000 to offset that. And this year's warrant is 1567808. And that includes $150,000 in contingency, which is money that is not designated for any specific construction purpose. Half of that the library controls, half of that the contractor controls. And as Lynn said, it's $2 a month for a home assessed at $300,000. Next. And this is the cost of doing nothing. We've been working with Milestone Engineering, which is a construction company out of Concord. The owner, Frank LeMay, lives here in Newbury, has a summer house here in Newbury. And he's been working with us through this entire process. At every step of the way, we have estimated the cost of this building and have watched it very carefully. We asked him to estimate what it would cost if the library didn't pass, and we were faced with another couple of years. Our systems have to be updated. Our roof leaks just began to leak, and we knew we put that off because it wouldn't make sense. Our HVAC systems are at the end of their life. We have a series of, the lighting is not economical. There's just a whole series of things. The building needs work on the outside and the inside. So if we do nothing, that's what we're facing. So, the one thing I didn't mention, and I should have mentioned it, the program room has a separate entrance. Can you go back to the the slide with the floor plan? Yeah, right there. This is a separate entrance into the meeting room. And this entrance also allows you use of the 2 bathrooms here and the kitchenette. And this can be open in the evenings for community use, which would also be very handy, particularly with the kitchenette added. A lot of small meetings like to have coffee and the like. So that's the presentation. And yes?
Can you go all the way back to that last slide with the itemized costs?
Sure. The second to last.
Next to the last, and the last.
Yeah.
So in the last slide, with the cost of doing nothing is almost $500,000. What you're saying is out of this 2.3-ish million dollars that are needed, almost $500,000 is going to go towards the existing building.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That's why the cost per square foot of the additional 3,100 feet is well within range.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering why it was $700 a square foot to build. That's an awful high number.
You got it.
And $500,000 comes out of that.
Thank you. It's a very excellent observation.
Also that it's a guaranteed.
By the way, it's guaranteed maximum price, and it's done through construction administration, which, if you're familiar with that process, the construction administration is a client of the owner, and he works with the owner and subs and bids all of the subcontracts. So you get the benefit of a bid process, and you don't get any of the hackles of getting into disputes with contractors.
All right, I think I'm on here.
Okay, before I open it up to questions, I just want to state something we all clarified amongst ourselves, the trustees. That 2022 cost is not accurate in terms of the warrant article. The warrant article is actually less. It's $2,117,808. So, whatever comfort that brings. But anyway, after our last community meeting, someone walked away with the impression that we were building a second story onto the library. I want to clarify that we are not. The whole point of the design of this, and Ron worked fabulously with us, is that the line of sight from the reference desk covers the entire library. We do not have to hire additional staff to make this new library work despite the increase in square footage. So we are very cost conscious. We have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers as elected officials ourselves. So everything we've done is to streamline and just get what we need, as Patricia said, not what we want. Everyone wants the Taj Mahal. I am going to open this to questions now because we very much value your input. I would just ask that you please state your name and address for the record because it is being publicly recorded.
Okay, my name is Gus Gasiwa. I live at 46 High Meadow Road. Say again what the warrant number is.
Sure. The warrant article is $2,117,808.
Is that the warrant or is that the cost?
That's the warrant, this is the cost.
So,
Yeah, and
so
from,
the warrant, the cost is plus 550, less the funding that you've collected?
Yes.
So it's like, the
One-
cost is 2.6 million.
no, it's less that 550,000. So the actual cost, and this will be reflected in the article, we called it up, is $1,567,808.
That's what the warrant is.
Yes.
That's what the warrant
You
will.
just said the warrant is,
Well, we have to state both numbers in the warrant.
Can I just say, the warrant has to be the full cost, which is that
117, et cetera.
all right, I
And
just,
then what's shown here as warrant is really the town's portion.
understood. I'm just trying to correlate what the screen is showing and saying as opposed to what you're saying. It's
Right.
not quite the same.
It's
Well,
not-
that's why I stated that this number is slightly,
Incorrect.
But I mean, Dennis could certainly square it away, but basically the 173,000 has already been spent. So the total cost is reduced by that. Is that not correct, Dennis?
Yes,
Yes,
that's right.
Okay, so that's what.
I think what you want to just say is the total amount of 2,117,000 is your total appropriation. You have to have an appropriation to spend the money. That's your total appropriation. The 1,500,000 and change is the amount that you're bonding. That's the amount that you're borrowing. So the difference is the 550,000 that you're receiving in foundation aid.
And 173 that basically, if you remember, 2 years ago, we went,
2 years ago, we went to the town and asked for $200,000. That's the money we spent to have the final construction documents drawn. And what that means is, if this is passed at town meeting, we don't have to lose 6 to 8 months to do the construction documents. They're ready to go. But more importantly, because we had construction documents and not just a schematic diagram, we could accurately price the building. So there was a lot of benefit to that.
okay.
Liz Tenterelli, Bowles Road. So on the line that says less warrant article, 173,000, that's that $200,000 warrant article
Yes.
we passed in order to prepare for what we're voting on now, right?
Correct. And the problem is that that warrant article was done in 2020. We rolled that money over into 2021, which allowed us to take out the full 200. We couldn't roll over it another year according to the auditor. And so we lost $26,000 in that year because we couldn't spend it all. We could only spend what we actually had contracted to do.
We didn't actually lose it, we turned it back to the town.
Yeah, we lost it, but the town got it.
More questions, please. We welcome them.
Maureen Rosen of Blind Mill. Is this going to be online in some fashion so that it would be wonderful for people who are not here to be able to see all of this?
This is on the town website.
It is?
This entire presentation is on the town website.
It's also on the library website.
It's also in the library,
Yes,
It's on
and
the library website.
at this
the
point,
library website, and they're on the foundation website. They're all linked.
okay, I've been remiss in not acknowledging, introducing, lauding Leah McBain, our library director, Laura Pizzone, our assistant library director. These guys make the trains run on time, and it was Leah who got the bus stop pulling up right to the library door, and who, you know, established the delivery at home program. She's been remarkable.
Yes.
Can I borrow that for a second? Because as a parent of 3 kids, I want to talk about how great the bus stop is, because right now, I'm not sure if you know, there's a huge bus driver shortage. And so many families are getting a call at 6 in the morning telling them that the bus is going to be dropping off at a different time because of the bus driver shortage. And so luckily, I'm able to take my kids in and be home when they arrive. But if we weren't, it would be, to say critical is to not state it strongly enough, that the bus stop, we could pick our kids up at the library. Because I think right now families are under a lot of stress around the bus driver shortage. And so something as simple as the bus stop has a huge impact. And I just wanted to quickly emphasize when
Wait a minute, hold on, Eric. Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce Eric. I'm sorry, Eric Boyer. I'm a trustee and I live on Old Post Road, so I apologize. And just one other thing, you had said about how Newbury is distinct because it has this town center. I can tell you from personal experience that we moved here because of that. We were living up in Hilltop Place, actually, in New London when I first moved here. And when we were looking for houses, Newbury was distinct. We were already coming here because of the park. If you have kids, this is the best park in the entire area. And then we would go to the park, eat at Bubba's, go to the library, all in one stop. And so it made it easy to look for a house. And so I think there's a real impact to having a distinctive town center that it's the reason why we're living here.
Thank you, Eric.
More questions, please. Yes.
An observation, and confirm it or not. With this being a bus stop, the kids are able to go into the library and stay?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't let them go.
That sounds like a daycare
Well,
operation to me.
the library closes at 6, except for one night.
Okay, well, that's a great hour.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not allowed to use that terminology for liability purposes, but it sounds like a daycare operation. What I'm getting at is this is a positive thing. If you can say that, that would go a long ways towards convincing a lot of folks, again, of the need.
We try to express it without using that daycare terminology because, you know, some parents will abuse that, but no, it is a safe place. They are not allowed to leave. No one who's not authorized can pick them up. So, I mean, these ladies go above and beyond.
So I need to clarify a little bit. So we do have a policy. So, okay, let me. So kids under 11 can't attend the library unattended unless they are attending a program. If we have an after-school program, which we do run pre-COVID, we ran after-school programs twice a week, and kids would come to those programs after school. And these programs are educational. They we have curriculum that we design for them, themes that we design for them, and they vary from season to season, and we have sign-up sheets for them. We have very specific forms and criteria for how we run them. Kids under under 11 do not attend the library otherwise unless they are attended by a guardian or a parent or anyone under 15. Kids over 11 can attend the library unattended. We are not their guardians. They can attend the library, do homework, wait to be picked up, and at that point, we are not a daycare. So teens, middle schoolers do attend the library at that point. And so I do want to clarify that kids don't just get off the bus, and we are not providing daycare services. We do provide programs for children, but I do want to clarify that point.
Anyone else, please? All right then.
That's what I asked the question. Does anybody here think that this library expansion is not needed? If you say so, I mean, if you think so, raise your hand. We'd like to talk to you.
Be careful what you ask for.
No, is there? I'm serious. I'm serious because if you look around, I mean, I think we all think Newbury is a special place, and it is. Newbury has a very different sense of community than some of our bordering towns. And I really think a lot of that is because of our town center and the fact that you can really run into everybody you know when you come to the town center, either for the library or to talk to the police chief, God forbid. And also, I think that everybody should know that the library does not feel that it is in competition with the police department. It's like saying if you have to choose between your left hand and your right hand. Both of these are really necessary for the town. The police department is essential for what it does, but the library is essential for what it does. It isn't always so easily measurable, but it is so essential because, as Eric was saying, it provides services that you can't get anyplace else except the library.
And our confidentiality is inviolate. You can come in, check out a book, no one knows what you checked out. You can come in, ask one of these wonderful women for advice, help, direction. And oh, well, yes, Pete, we have Pete Mitchell. And he is fabulous. Writes crossword puzzles for the New York Times. I mean, we have so much talent in that building, it's crazy. But, you know, the library really is a safe haven. So, you know, we answer all sorts of needs that you won't find in any job description or description of a library. Yes?
Are there any security things that you will have in place to protect in case there's some kind of an emergency?
This is a huge issue.
Yeah.
The line of sight thing we consider vital and also a security issue, and I'd like Leah to address this because she's put a lot of thought into it, but you know, you can't turn on the news without seeing a new tragedy unfolding in some of the most unlikely places. So
just even how, is this working?
Your mouth. Yeah, hold it right at your mouth.
Is this better?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So even how just this new design is structured, I think takes into consideration a lot more security features for the building. Moving the circulation desk back farther from the door creates a little bit more distance. I don't know if this question was more about active shooter type situations.
Consider it
or-
was.
Well, I also thought, is there a way to contact the police immediately in case there was an issue?
We do have that feature.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in thinking about evacuation measures for the building, there are a lot more features for that. Line of sight is a lot better, especially with this new building. We are taking into consideration our staff. We are not adding additional staff, and so we want to make sure that our staff, our current staff, can see all throughout the building. With our current building right now, we don't have many options if we were to have an assailant come into our building. We're pretty much right there at the front. We don't have places to shelter.
Right.
I've been through a lot of active shooter training, and we are the fight in that run hide fight. With this new design, we might have more of a chance to run. I mean, I hate to say it, but you know, even in a small town like this, it's something to think about. There are options, especially with the kids' room, to evacuate children. And also in situations of fire, I think that there's a lot more, a lot of an easier way to get children out of the children's portion of the building than there currently is. I mean, our current space, we have to get kids out of the window. So this new building, it's easier to get them out of a door quickly. You know, I think it really does take into consideration a lot more security features.
Yes.
And I hate to be morbid to think about this, but I have had to think about, you know, what would we do in a situation of
Right.
I think we all have, and you know, I often don't go into a public building without thinking, how do I get out of the public building? I was a journalist in my former life, and you know, I covered a lot of this bloodiness, and yeah, no, it's something that we consider all the time, and you have to understand too that at the library you get all sorts of people. Some of them are very lonely, they're distraught, they're mentally, you know, impaired, and they have to be reasoned with, dealt with. There's so much counseling that goes on in that building, I can't even begin to convey.
Hi.
Yeah, Denise.
Denise Mitchell, Birch Bluff, and my husband is Pete, who works at the library. One of the things I think libraries do as well is in hot summer days, it's a nice, cool area for people to take a break. And in the wintertime, I know I have a friend or two in town who have had heating problems, and hanging out at the library for a few hours is also respite. So if we think about other, like disasters or just power outages, things like that, the center of town is more reliable on, you know, power sources and just general heating, air conditioning. So it's a great area to kind of convene if you're having other community issues going on as well.
That's an excellent point, thanks. And, you know, we all know the price of subscriptions to magazines and newspapers has gone through the ceiling. You go there, you can read everything.
And internet access. When Colby Sawyer shut down for COVID, we had students in the parking lots of libraries all over New England because the library was the only place that had internet. And so I think it's another thing we don't think about with the library, but reliable internet. We've lost power so many times, lost internet, and I've had to come and sit in the library to do my work.
Yeah, and I think it's also part of the discussion that while we like town center, we do have some other areas of town that sometimes feel underserved for different things, but the center allows us to keep power going, keep internet going more reliably. So it's kind of the, you know, you can't have both sides of it necessarily, but that central really helps, I think.
But the South Newbury also, there's a campaign right now to get the Friendship House back online, and when it comes online, it's going to have a huge commercial kitchen. So, you know, that's going to be a great asset for that end of town. It gives them almost a little space, and it would be great, you know, there might even put a mini library down there. I shouldn't have said that. Leah just had a heart attack, but that's okay.
we have a little library down there at the center meeting.
At the little library outside, yes.
Yes, our little libraries is another innovation, and they are extremely popular. So, you know, if you're finding yourself at midnight unable to sleep, go to a little library. They're outdoors and the books are there. Anyone else have questions, please? We welcome them. All right, then I guess our work here is done.